Welcome to Native Talk Arizona, Native Health's Native American Cultural Affairs program, presented by Native Health and KRDP 90.7 FM. I'm Susan Levy. And with us today in the studio is Brooke Davis. She's Native Health's Behavioral Health Case Manager, Domestic Violence Prevention and Education Case Manager. Sorry about that. And January 2026 is National Stalking Awareness Month, which I know Brooke does a lot of work in that area. And Brooke, welcome back to Native Talk Arizona, and I want to learn more about stalking.
Oh, well, it's nice to be back. I know the last time we spoke, we covered Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
Yep.
For those, if it's your first time hearing my voice, my name is Brooke Davis. I use she, her pronouns. And as Susan mentioned, I am the case manager for Domestic Violence Prevention and Education. As we just mentioned, January 2026 is National Stalking Awareness Month, also known as NSAM. And I think that this is a great time to educate the public and our communities about stalking, its prevalence, and its impact on our survivors, and also resources available in our community. And if you'd like, I'm happy to go over statistics and kind of the prevalence of stalking in our communities.
But I want to go back.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, tell us a little bit, since our listeners are not all familiar with you.
Oh, okay.
A little bit about yourself, your journey. How'd you get to Native Health? I know that you've had some experience in the field.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about how you ended up, and you landed at Native Health, what you do here, and then we'll go into the stalking.
Okay, sounds good. So I got involved in domestic and sexual violence work and kind of response at Northern Arizona University. I worked as a graduate service assistant for sexual assault and relationship violence prevention. So I did a lot of prevention education with our college students, and also monthly awareness campaigns on domestic violence, sexual violence, national stalking awareness, along with like healthy relationships and all that fun stuff. And I just really developed a passion for it. I got to work with a lot of people and kind of do primary prevention with them, and just kind of talk about the importance of healthy relationships, the importance of being a good relative, a good community member with folks in our community. And so I graduated with my master's back in May of 2025, so just, not that long ago, and decided to, kind of start looking for my adult job.
Okay.
Yeah. And I initially applied for a role here at Native Health for case management because I felt I wanted to be a bit more involved in direct services and, kind of be the frontline people working with survivors, other than, along with like doing prevention work and outreach. And now I'm here. I work at Native Health. I do, prevention education, direct services, along with community education with tribal communities in Maricopa County.
For domestic violence, right?
Yeah,
Is your primary focus? Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So as you mentioned, January is Stalking Awareness Month. Mm-hmm. So what is stalking? I know different people have different perceptions and different ideas and what that means. So in a professional's opinion, what is stalking?
Yeah, so stalking I would define as a pattern of behavior directed to a specific individual or person that, causes a reasonable or normal person to feel fear, or causes excessive stress or distress, emotional distress. I think that, again, as you mentioned, like it varies from, state to state, person to person, but really the main components that make stalking what it is a repeated behavior of unwanted contact, unwanted or persistent harassment, and, causes someone to feel fear not only for themselves, but maybe their loved ones, and also causes emotional distress. Those are really like the main components I like to highlight. And I think it's really important that we acknowledge those because those are some of the main components that make up the legal definitions. So like, for example, Arizona's definition of stalking is very different from New Mexico and so on. But all of those are, the main things that make up what it is.
Is Arizona more regulations or less regulations, or just is every state just different?
Every state is different in the way that they define stalking, especially when it comes to like cyber crimes with stalking. But I will say Arizona has a pretty robust definition of what stalking is, and it's very comprehensive and somewhat survivor centered. And so when folks go in to report stalking to law enforcement, to the police, if they show one sign of, repeated unwanted contact, it's targeting a specific person, it causes emotional distress and, causes someone to feel fear, those would be, taken seriously and, be understood in the eyes of the law that this is a crime and this is stalking.
Okay, so let's talk about the different kinds of stalking.
Yeah.
Because you said cyber, so let's talk about all the different kinds of stalking that there are. What kinds are there?
So there are many different types of stalking. For me, I always like to define it and categorize based on the behaviors of what stalking is. But for normal people or normal conversations, sometimes it's there's physical stalking where, there's someone following you, there's someone monitoring you. There's cyber stalking where, you use telephone and technology, social media to track and monitor another individual. There's also, categorizations based on the relationship between the perpetrator and the survivor. So, for example, intimate partner stalking, where, a loved one, your boyfriend, girlfriend, partner, spouse is the stalker. Or there's also stranger stalking, where there is just a random person stalking someone. But for me, I always think it's easier to kind of categorize based on the behavior because it increases our own awareness as a community of what stalking looks like and how it can impact someone in our community. So one of the first one is surveillance stalking. It's probably the most common tactic of stalking. It typically just involves, the stalker monitoring or following someone, typically, the victim. And it could look like following or watching someone, checking, their mail, their trash, their emails, other types of social media content, even using GPS or tracking devices to follow that individual and to monitor them.
In terms of stalking, you were talking about people surveillance stalking.
Yes.
So how do I know if somebody's doing surveillance stalking of me? Do you know? Do you not know? Do you just happen to be in the parking garage and you look back and there's somebody watching you? So
it's a combination of everything. Honestly, when I, speak to survivors and, victims of stalking, I really just tell them trust their instincts. They know their situation best. If they feel that, there are just, they have weird suspicions or, concerns of their safety, I always tell them and recommend to document everything because as we know, in that definition, it's really important that we show that there's a repeated behavior of unwanted contact, unwanted situations. Even though if you can't directly name it, that something's happening, just to, have on your end to show that, this is something that is occurring. And, let's say for example, cyber stalking, they're using a GPS or some type of tracking software. One of the easiest ways to tell if it's on your own devices is if there's sudden changes in your battery usage. You'll see a sudden decline in the your battery just from normal day-to-day use. It's actually kind of frightening to kind of see what methods are being used nowadays with technology becoming more accessible, more affordable. I've recently attended a webinar talking about Apple AirTags being used in vehicles and luggages, other types of apps. Some people, track people based on their Venmo transactions. And unfortunately, I
haven't heard that one, but the Apple AirTags, yeah, and then the locations,
yes,
the app,
yes, then AirPod trackers. I have relatives, unfortunately, my grandma, she uses Facebook and, puts in her status location updates. So I'm like, Grandma, you shouldn't be sharing your location.
Well, I think not even just for stalking, for just safety
privacy,
and security.
Exactly.
Whatever. Why share that information?
Exactly.
But yeah, somebody in my family was saying, oh yeah, I watch when you go to work every day. And I'm like, you what?
Yeah, most definitely.
When did you have my phone and put that setting on? I was sharing that with you. That's a little scary. All right. And what about texting? You haven't mentioned that. So what if people text unwanted, repeatedly and it's unwanted? Would that be considered stalking?
100%. I definitely would say that, that's a form of surveillance. And I would also say even life invasion, which is the second, modality or second tactic of stalking. Life invasion typically refers to when a stalker or an individual enters the victim's life without their consent. And, as one of the most common ways is repeated unwanted messages or contact through phone calls, text messages, emails, or even having a proxy. So a third party individual like a friend, a family member, or another community member repeatedly checking in on the individual on the behalf of the stalker to gain information.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Not.
And another thing that I always like to, kind of be a bit worried about or, highlight some concerns about in our community, especially with the youth. I actually recently heard that there's a new form of stalking where someone can, track someone's location by using an image. You'll send it via text. If they click on that link, it'll send information back to another person of like, this is their exact coordinates or an area where they're at, maybe the town. And, if you're in a rural community like the Navajo Nation, like, for example, like where my family's from, it's very remote. So if they, find the information, they're able to then figure out like who are the closest neighbors to me, then from there ask questions of like, where's this person's family from?
Well, that, and you're talking about missing and murdered then.
Exactly.
I mean, then if you're in a rural area, and I know that's one of the apps, and I'm not going to say which one, that was one of the new features that they're recommending that you turn off.
Yes.
Because you can definitely track down people.
Yes.
And then I would imagine that contributes to a lot of violence.
100%.
And or missing and murdered or all of it.
Most definitely. And I think, it's really important in the month of January to raise awareness about stalking because we know that stalking intersects with domestic violence, sexual violence, human trafficking, and, of course, the ongoing epidemic with missing and murdered Indigenous relatives.
Scary. All right. So I know that we were just talking about, so like on some of the apps, and I think it's important to note that sometimes when your phone does updates, that the original settings can revert back to what they were.
Yes.
So you probably need to check your public and private settings and make sure that they're off. The correct one is off.
Right.
And so that people can't track you and can't find you and can't find your coordinates or where you are and your patterns. I also think people do a lot of oversharing.
Yeah.
I was just reading about that and the oversharing of like, and where you go every day for coffee or I don't know.
Yeah. Everyday use. Like I sometimes am, guilty of oversharing certain information. Like sometimes like, for example, like I have a pet. I will not say like, I use my pet's name for my own passwords, but some people do. So being mindful of like the type of details that you share that are, used for password creation or even like safety details of like security methods, security questions when you are logging into an online account or into, your school accounts, business accounts, all that stuff. And I think I just want to kind of go back to like the piece where, it's really important for folks to regularly check their settings on their phone, on their social media apps. There's a lot of updates that come and go, every year, every month, every day. So just making sure that you're checking it regularly and that you're updating things to what feels most comfortable for you. Sometimes, I have things I want to post where I only want my sisters to share. I would do close friend post. Or I would, be mindful of things that I post because some people can also screenshot those things and also share it amongst other folks that, were never meant to see it. So just kind of be mindful of what details you share and who you choose to, share that information with.
So if somebody thinks they're being stalked, I know that you said you should definitely keep notes of what happened, like I'm assuming day, time, place, like what's happened, who's involved in case you need to go to the police or law enforcement. Is that right?
Yes. And I always like to recommend on the Spark website. Spark is the Stalking Prevention and Awareness Resource Center. It's a national website that anyone can use, but they have a documentation log to kind of keep track of everything. That's pretty standardized for, police reports and all that stuff.
Okay, and that's Spark?
Spark.
I had not heard of that. Okay. So if somebody's stalking, does that always go hand in hand with domestic violence?
Not all the time, but I will say, like, in instances of domestic violence, there's always, things that, connect to stalking. It's always like that power and control over another individual. And sometimes that, means control over that person's location, the control and need to, surveillance and monitor that individual. So not every instance of domestic violence has stalking, but most often it, is connected in one way or another.
So domestic violence does with stalking, but stalking not necessarily
always with domestic
always
violence.
with domestic violence.
Yes.
Just okay. So if you've done that and you've done your the Spark, then what's your next step? If you say, you know what, like Brooke, you've been texting me 50 times a day and I've done all my notes and I can't deal with this anymore, then what do you do? Do you call law enforcement? Do they come here and talk to you? What's the next step?
So that's definitely a question that depends on that person's, comfort and their own safety. Sometimes, like, if this individual, if you were to directly confront them or go straight to police, it might, raise a bit more concerns. Sometimes I always like to recommend, while you're beginning, that process of documenting everything, reaching out to an advocate or to a trusted loved one to kind of begin safety planning. So this could be, beginning conversations of ways that you can first maybe check and, update your own settings on your own devices. It could look like, if it's physical stalking, changing, maybe your own route to get to and from work, to and from places, and, making sure that you're taking action and prioritizing your own privacy, your own safety. And then from there, like, if you were interested in wanting, beginning that conversation, to reaching out to law enforcement with, obviously the support with loved ones, and also maybe an advocate in that process.
Pretty scary.
Yeah.
I mean, to think, somebody could just put an air tag in your car.
Yeah.
In your bag, in your wallet,
Yeah.
or wherever. Anyway.
Yeah, and I will say, I think it's really important for our community, on top of, like, being mindful of how all of these things, like, may impact you. It also may impact, a loved one. So learning to, be that supportive, caring person for the individual. So, letting them know that they're not alone. You're here to support them. You believe them in their experience of stalking, and that you're here to support them in any way possible.
So if somebody wants to talk to you about stalking, you have experience and you would know what to do and how to help them?
Yes.
Okay. And so how would they reach you?
One of the easiest ways, I would say, is calling Native Health at 602-279-5262 and asking for Brooke Davis through the extension 12012.
Okay. And I know we have a couple Brooks, so it would be Brooke Davis.
Brooke Davis.
Right. And then so you can help with stalking and get them the help that they need.
Yes. And also, if they're wanting to, get connected with other folks, maybe talk about counseling, we're able to get them connected with anyone that, they may need get connected to and get that assistance that they need.
Okay, I have one more quick question, since I know we're pretty much out of time. Can stalking happen to anyone and at any age?
Yes, it can. As I mentioned, anyone is, percepted or, able to, access any information anywhere. So, anyone can be impacted, and anyone can also, use that information for good or wrong reasons. So again, just kind of going back to prioritizing your own safety online, and making sure that, you're being safe with the information that you share online or with other individuals.
And if it's a child, tell your parent.
Yes.
Or a teen, tell your parent, or somebody who's trusted, right?
Most definitely.
Okay.
And if you're a parent, also checking in on your child's safety. I know it may seem a little overbearing, but, it's always good to take precautions.
Okay. And again, if somebody thinks they're being stalked and they need help at Native Health, call Brooke Davis at 602-279-5262, extension
12012.
Okay. Thanks, Brooke, for coming on.
Of course.
Coming up next on Native Talk Arizona, Davina Whitethorn will tell us about the Buddy Whitethorn Foundation. Support for KRDP 90.7 FM comes in part from Native Health, with 2 locations in Phoenix, 4041 North Central Avenue, Building C, near the corner of Central Avenue and Indian School Road, and at 8800 North 22nd Avenue. Native Health is also located in Mesa at 777 West Southern Avenue, near the corner of Southern Avenue and Extension Road. And Native Health provides primary medical services at the new Guadalupe Health Center, 6725 South Priest Drive in Guadalupe. Native Health provides primary medical, dental, behavioral health, WIC, and wellness services for the urban Native American community. For more information, call 602-279-5262 or visit our webpage at nativehealthphoenix.org.
Welcome back to Native Talk Arizona, Native Health's Native American Cultural Affairs program, presented by Native Health and KRDP 90.7 FM. I'm Susan Levy, and today we have Davina Whitethorn of the Buddy Whitethorn Foundation, and she's also the board secretary. Davina, welcome to Native Talk Arizona.
Thank you for having me.
I am so excited to learn more about the Buddy, one about you. I don't want to just say that. One about you, and then also about Buddy Whitethorn and the foundation. And I know I've seen the foundation's work, and you all do such important work and encouraging artists. But let's find out a little bit about you before we find out about the foundation. So tell us a little bit about yourself, your journey, what you do.
Sure. My name is Davina Whitethorn. As a secretary, my dad saw me as an important information gatherer and just saw me as a person that would keep everything moving. And I have since carried the foundation in that particular role as secretary. But as far as the foundation goes, Buddy, growing up, he always was creative in anything that he touched. It was amazing to see how he had transformed and morphed his artwork into his own. Having grown up as the son of a great artist, he didn't know, where to find his footing. He didn't really quite know how to put himself out there. So he started to learn more about art, paid attention. Then he ended up going to Santa Fe Art School and pursued that for a little bit, and then decided he had found more of his footing, and then started painting again. So I was very proud of him. He started doing children's books. He started, trying to get his name out there. So pretty big shoes to fill. So just really happy to build on something that he started. He loved kids. He was a great uncle. He just was so good with kids, just his patience, his way of allowing them to paint and create something. So he fostered that a lot. And he thought, why not, let me take that to the schools and see if there's something that I could help, my dad. So that is when they started to go around the reservation schools and just kind of give them an idea of what they do and what they get to do. So with that, they started to go around to different schools and painted many murals. And Tuba City Boarding School and the Star School in Loop were two of his favorites. So they still have those murals preserved to this day. But yes, that's the whole reasoning behind the Buddy Whitethorn Foundation. It was that our father, Buddy Whitethorn, wanted to preserve Buddy's legacy after Buddy passed.
Can you tell our listeners, what does the foundation do? I know that you've got different facets of things that you do. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
So what we do is, first we started off very little to no money. Didn't quite know how to get something started out of nothing. So it took a lot of research, took a lot of finding grants that would support, art and Native American art. So I started writing myself and Mike Finney, and we started to kind of exchange ideas. My dad said, let's start something where we have all these artists, we're at all these art shows. Let's start putting together some collaborative paintings where we have them all in one place and they can just each add their own touch to each piece that they collaborate on. And it could be something, whatever happens with it, and there really isn't something where it's going to, who knows what that painting is going to end up at the end. So my dad wanted to put everyone's talent to use and ran it by the whole group and said, hey, what do you guys think of, having a raffle? We all are artists, and why not put it to good cause? So it stemmed from him and his creativeness and wanting to help. That's always been his MO. If anything, trying to figure out how to give back to the next generation. And that was his way of, let's raise a raffle, let's get some money together. And paintings that are normally worth thousands of dollars, people can pay, like $20, $25 into what was called a coin toss. And they could potentially walk off with that painting that all these artists created in that whole day. So started with an idea like that and grew and grew. And then we got some grant money. And since then, we have helped Coconino Community College establish the Buddy Whitethorn Foundation Scholarship. We partnered with Diné College to have some art scholarships, and we're looking to partner with NAU to get some art scholarships there. So trying to create more opportunities for the art. Doesn't matter if it's fine arts, graphic art, history of art, just anything where you're uplifting art in general. So we're looking to expand, and we're always looking for new opportunities for the Buddy Whitethorn Foundation to be involved. So anytime there's kids, we're there. We're all for it.
That's awesome. And I don't think you mentioned your painting workshop. Did you mention that, or did?
Oh, okay. No, I did not. So the Hajon Academy actually was a tribute to our dad. Anybody who sat with him anywhere, he always said Hajon. He said Hajon this, Hajon that, and we thought, you know what? Anybody that can think of having a conversation, with her dad, that was his favorite word, just to be, and why not name it after that? So we went ahead and, as a board, we decided why not collectively offer some opportunities for kids to come for free. All they had to do was go online and fill out an application, tell us a little bit about themselves and why they want to do this. And then we showcase, everything that they participate in. So we're just looking to give, local kids a space where they can learn off of other artists and just kind of do the same thing our dad did with Buddy. It was just an idea, and we didn't do it right away. My dad had passed a few years ago, and we were going to do it last year, but we weren't ready. So we said, okay, let's just do it this year. And so we kicked it off this year, gave us a chance, to kind of look and see where we could do better. We could improve processes. And the good thing about our foundation is that we have so many mentors at our disposal that, we can look and see who's available, who's not, who wants to do it, who hasn't, just all these artists that are willing to help kids. So it's a great way to keep what became a thought in our dad's mind and preserve it. The Museum of Northern Arizona always partnered with our dad, and I think it's just a good way to commemorate that relationship going forward. So looking forward to next year. We'll be posting some applications here in the next couple of months. Looking forward to our next round of applicants, and just looking to get better each year.
I'm sure the feedback that you got was incredible, right? From those students that were painting.
It was.
Yeah.
It was. The thing that kind of separated us from like the Namingha Institute that also hosts every year is that they provide stipend and lodging and that kind of thing. So we're not quite there yet. We want to appeal to kids, that are further away on the reservation that might not live so close, but still want to take part. So looking, for any sponsors that are willing to help us out, help get these artistic kids out here to build on anything that they want to do, and whether it's graphic art, comic book drawing, just anything to do with creatively expressing, their heritage or whatever it is that they are associating art with.
So who funds the Buddy Whitethorn Foundation? I know that you said that you've done some scholarships and you're looking to do more. Was there a funding source, or was just this something that your dad did and that it's just grown, like his investments have grown in this?
I initially wrote a couple of grants, and we, the year that he passed, we had just received a $25,000 grant. And we have been sustaining ourselves by these art events that we do with coin tosses. And just recently at the Tuba City Fair, we did a raffle. We had a large tent where we had just a lot of artists there set up with their stuff. And they all donated an art item for us to raffle. We were able to raise a good enough amount of money, and that money's always used towards art supplies and scholarships. I forgot to mention that school supplies, art supplies specifically, are really the thing that we are giving out the most. School writes in, says, hey, I'm the art teacher, our budget's been cut. Can you help, supplement our art list? And so we asked for a list, a contact, and who we can send it to. And all that we ask in return is just photos, the end result of what the art supplies were used for. And who knows, there could be a next Buddy Whitethorn out of that whole group, and it's really neat to see that. I want to also mention, just after Buddy passed, we received hundreds of cards from the kids that he had taught art to. It was like an outpouring of just sympathy and love, and it was just, as his family, it was very heartwarming to see that these kids took the time to write something about somebody that had done that for them, that had inspired them. And we still have those cards to this day, by the way. So makes us feel good about what we're doing.
All right. How can somebody reach out and contact you? Do you have a website? Do you have social media? What's the best way to learn more about the Buddy Whitethorn Foundation?
We do have a website. It's www.buddywhitethornfoundation.org. We post all kinds of newsletters on there, any type of information that's new and upcoming. Join our emailing list. And then if anybody wants to learn more about partnering or has questions, feel free to email us at info@buddywhitethorn.com.
Cool. All right. Let's hope our listeners take you up on that. I hope somebody reaches out on behalf of those of us that live in Phoenix and set something up with you. I think it would be great to have something down in Phoenix or even Southern Arizona. Northern Arizona is awesome, but also some other stuff down here. And I really want to thank you for coming on and telling us about the foundation. I encourage people to check out your website and your social media. I think Buddy's art was beautiful and inspiring, and I hope people look at it and it brings them joy. But thank you so much for coming on, Davina. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Up next, host Susan Levy chats with Shannon Lawrence, founder of Indigenous Empowerment and creator of Soho Storytime. Support for KRDP 90.7 FM comes in part from Native Health, with 2 locations in Phoenix: 4041 North Central Avenue, Building C, near the corner of Central Avenue and Indian School Road, and at 8800 North 22nd Avenue. Native Health is also located in Mesa at 777 West Southern Avenue, near the corner of Southern Avenue and Extension Road. And Native Health provides primary medical services at the new Guadalupe Health Center, 6725 South Priest Drive in Guadalupe. Native Health's patient enrollment specialist can help you enroll, renew, or update your access information. This can be done in person, on the phone, or via Zoom. It's fast, easy, and can make a difference in keeping your health care coverage. For more information, call 602-285-9492.
Welcome back to Native Talk Arizona, Native Health's Native American Cultural Affairs program, presented by Native Health and KRDP 90.7 FM. I'm Susan Levy, and with us today is Shannon Lawrence, founder of Indigenous Empowerment and creator of Soho Storytime, which is available on YouTube. Shannon just doesn't read the stories. They're brought to life to educate, entertain, and connect generations. And I've seen the videos, and they are amazing. Shannon, welcome to Native Talk Arizona.
Thank you so much for having me. It is a pleasure to be here.
I'm so impressed with how you started, and I can't wait for you to tell our listeners more. But before we get started, tell us a little bit about yourself, your journey, and how and why you did this.
So my name is Shannon Lawrence. I am Navajo Diné from my mother's side and Hopi and Assiniboine from my father's side. I am a licensed clinical social worker, counselor. I am the founder of Indigenous Empowerment that started in 2012. And I'm also the creator of a YouTube channel called Soho Storytime, like you mentioned. I was born in Tuba City, Arizona, and I left the res when I went off to college.
Where'd you go to college?
Oh, yes. I went to college at Arizona State University.
All right.
I got my bachelor's and master's degree in social work.
Cool. All right. Well, you're a Sun Devil. That's what I was hoping.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so tell me, what is So Storytime?
Yeah, so So'o Storytime is a platform that I chose to use to be able to read bedtime stories with my grandchildren, and it was just a place for me to go ahead and record those stories, because it is one of the best memories that I have with my own children is reading bedtime stories. And since my grandchildren don't live with me, I wanted to be able to do that for them. And so I just started reading stories that I thought I might enjoy. Other people started to see those stories and started sharing it with their own children and their own grandchildren. And then I started getting requests. And so that it became a little bit more of a passion project and something that I wanted to share with a lot more kiddos out there. So'o means grandmother in Hopi. And I really wanted to pay homage to my So'o Winifred, and because she was just amazing, and she was kind and gentle and funny and had the best laugh. And so I really wanted to pay homage to her, and I called the channel So'o Storytime.
All right, so what kind of books do you read on the Storytime?
So I read mostly children's picture books for children's ages of newborn, of course, to about 6 or 7. And most of the books are very diverse. I really like to focus on diversity in showing people of all races, ethnic backgrounds, people that are celebrating different types of holidays that we may not necessarily do here in the U.S., or they may not just be as commonplace. I also like to share stories about different types of families. We have a lot of diverse families out there, and so I just really wanted to be able to highlight those as well. But half of the stories that I read are by Native American authors and or illustrators here in the U.S. and in Canada. And so I really wanted to be able to focus on those amazing authors and illustrators.
Do you have a favorite book, or you're not allowed to say that?
I cannot pick one favorite book. People ask me that all of the time. I have a lot of favorite authors.
Okay, who are your favorite authors?
Yes, some of my favorite authors are Deidre Haverlock, Laurel Goodluck,
Yep.
Tracy Sorrell,
Yep.
Michaela Goad, oh my gosh, Violet Duncan.
Yep.
I'm reading a book by Denise Alley currently called Native Soul, Heart and Healing. It's basically a book about stories and blessings and overcoming victimhood. It really speaks to my counseling part of my brain right now, so I'm reading that right now. There's a lot of amazing authors and illustrators, and I'm sure that I have not been able to read a book from each and every one of them yet. When I first started this journey, I decided about 3 years ago that I was going to read a Native American authored and or illustrated book each day of Native American Heritage Month. And I didn't really seem like I was able to do that and highlight different authors and illustrators. I kept finding the same ones. But I just really have to say that after a couple of years, not only is my searching a lot better, but there's just a lot more authors and illustrators out there that are really able to share their stories and share their beautiful art with our children, and it's just really amazing. So now I have an abundance of books that I can choose from, which is really great.
That's cool. I know, and even since we've been doing Native Talk Arizona, we've had a number of those authors that you've mentioned and others, some great ones from Arizona and all over on the show and talking about it. But I think there's been definitely a lot more authors, books, illustrators out there, and people are doing a lot more and selling a lot more and publishing, which is just, I think, amazing. So, and I'm glad you're reading them. So, Shannon, how many books have you read on So'o Storytime?
So far on So'o Storytime, I have over 300 videos.
Wow.
So I read at least 150 Native American authored and or illustrated books and 150 books by other authors and illustrators. And I have at least, I would say, about 30 that I have already recorded and edited and ready to go. I try to keep myself with between 20 to 30 videos on hand to be ready for, just in case anything happens in our life where I'm not able to record or edit or anything like that. So I always have lots of books ready to go.
So is there a way that people could filter out if they wanted just to hear or watch the Indigenous videos? Is there a way to separate that, or do they just go to your to your YouTube and then just kind of look at it that way and find
Yes,
them?
so thank you. That's a really good question. So you can go to my YouTube channel called So Storytime, SO apostrophe OH Storytime, and you can look at the playlists that I have there. So I have several different playlists that are available. One of them is Indigenous authored and illustrated books. So all of the books that I've read that have a Native author or illustrator is on there. I have also have books that books for the little hearts that are healing. So there is a playlist for books that are on grief. If anybody's dealing with any kind of loss, I know that's very difficult to talk to with children sometimes, and we might need a little bit of extra help. There's also a playlist for advocacy, marching forward, anything to do with, putting our voice out there and advocating for our rights or rights of other people. I also have other playlists for Black American voices, our Hispanic voices, different things like that, because I know that other people are looking for certain types of books. I also have a playlist for mythical characters and also another playlist for holiday books, particularly around Christmas, Halloween, our regular U.S. holidays that we have. And then I have another playlist for toddler books, so more of the board books, the baby books for our younger readers. I did start doing a sensory video that has flute music and has some sort of Native American imagery in it. I only have one of those right now, but that is something that has been kind of requested by someone, and my little test subjects go to sleep within 15 minutes, which is amazing. My test subjects being my grandkids. So it's really kind of cool to be able to dabble in that a little bit as well. And they can also go onto my Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Threads pages as well to get any other videos.
Why do you think reading is important? I mean, what would you tell the listeners, the parents, aunties, whoever? Is it important to read to your child every night and establish a routine? Or what do you think is so important?
So I do think that reading is really important. I do think that not only is it a place for you to be able to have some one-on-one time with your child, it is really important to be able to share that time with them and give them the joy of reading. I know that we have a lot of very busy parents and a lot of busy caregivers, and so that is one of the reasons that I like sharing Sa'o Storytime, because even if you are, doing your own homework or, fixing dinner, you can put on one of the stories for them to be able to read. I really wanted to keep Sa'o Storytime very basic, where you actually are flipping through the pages. There's not a lot of moving parts and things like that, because I do really enjoy just being able to let children imagine what it is that they're reading and be able to just kind of read along and see the words that I'm reading to them or that their parents are reading to them. As we know, we have really strong storytelling traditions in our indigenous cultures. And a lot of those stories were only oral for so many years. And so a lot of the stories now are in written form. So I think it's really important to be able to share that. And it might not even be a whole historical story, but it could be a lesson. It could be something that brings you pride. When children see themselves in books, it's really powerful. And when they see themselves in the authors and illustrators, and I'm not talking just Native children, I'm talking all children, they really do open up their minds to what is possible for them and what it is they can do in their future. And I just think that's so important. One of the best things that I think is one of my kids really said that she loved when we used to read, and she just loved being able to snuggle up and be able to just read a book, and it just helped her to imagine, where the places she could visit one day, or the things that she could be one day, or even just, that it's okay to just be a kid and splash around on the water or whatever it is that you're doing. So I think it's really important.
So Shannon, do you take any requests for story time?
I actually do take requests, and I have gotten requests from people via email, storytime@ieaz.org, or just people also just comment on some of the videos on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, or Threads. Unfortunately, YouTube, because I have a child's page, comments are disabled, so I'm not able to get comments on YouTube. There's a lot of parameters in place, of course, for the protection of children, which I completely understand. So anyone, if they have a request or they want me to read a certain book, they can definitely reach out to me via email, or they can just comment on one of my videos. I do have some limitations on certain books that I cannot read based on copyright restrictions, but I definitely reach out to the person and let them know if I will or will not be able to read the story that they're recommending. I've also had a lot of authors and illustrators and publishers reach out to me and send me books that I have read on my channel as well, which is really awesome because it gives me a little bit more books to give to children for free after I'm done reading them. So there's a lot of different ways to be able to reach out to me to do that.
What is the company that you founded, Indigenous Empowerment? What is that?
So Indigenous Empowerment was started in 2012, and it's sort of taken on several different roles. It really is just the umbrella for a lot of the different projects that I work on. For instance, one of the projects is what we've been talking about, so Storytime. The other is my Indigenous Empowerment bookstore. Another has been training that I provided to social service organizations on how to help and provide support to our Native American individuals, families, and community. It has also taken on another role as also my own counseling role that I have in providing that support to Native young adults that are coming off the reservation and coming into this world, and wanting and how to navigate that whole situation. So it really is just the umbrella for all of the different ways that I'm able to empower our community.
Wow, you're pretty busy.
And I love it. All of it is amazing. All of it is really fun, and I really do enjoy all of it. It's really nice to be able to help not only adults in certain ways when it comes to, like I said, the training opportunities, counseling young adults, and now reading to children. It really is bringing everything that I love to do full circle and really emulate the social visionary that I talk about, and also my true love as a social worker and a counselor. So yeah, I love all of it.
You are busy, and I'm impressed. All right. What ideas do you have, or that you would want to spill the secrets on? Do you have anything planned around any additional storytelling projects or anything like that coming up?
Yes, actually, I have a couple of different markets that I will be part of coming up this month and next month. I will be visiting some schools to talk a little bit more about the importance of reading. I have done some presentations to some pretty big Fortune 500 companies about indigenous storytelling and the benefits it has for our community. I am working on my first book with a little boy called Johnny Rain and his little adventures in reading and living out those adventures that he reads about, which should hopefully be coming out in 2026, which is going to be really exciting. And also just creating the bookstore that I have as more of an online bookstore as well. That should be done by the end of the year, and I'll be doing a big announcement about that. So those are some of the things that I have working on right now.
So it sounds like you're doing a lot of great stuff. I wanted to find out if people are interested, let's talk again, or let's mention again, how can they find the Storytime? I know it's on YouTube, but how would they find that?
Yes, so you can actually, I do have a website that connects to everything. So the website is called www.soostorytime.com, SOOH, storytime.com. And that links to the YouTube channel, that links to all of the different social media platforms that I'm also on. It will link to my Amazon storefront right now, which is where people are getting books if they choose to. But pretty soon, of course, I will have my own online bookstore, and it'll connect you to that as well. I'm working on, there's another thing I'm working on. I'm working on a resources for teachers, basically just a list of books, different age groups, and books that's some of the things that teachers and educators have asked for, is a list of Native American authored and illustrated books. And it will also have some other resources on there as well. So that would be the best way to be able to contact me. And then you can also sign up for my newsletter. So far, I've only had 2 newsletters, which just kind of talk about some of the projects that we're working on and letting them know where they can find me if I'm going to be out at local markets, or how they can contact me or do any kind of requests. I also use that newsletter as a way to be able to do giveaways. I have the pleasure, because of all of the books that I do get provided by different authors and illustrators, I do have the pleasure of being able to gift books on at least a bi-monthly basis. So that's really exciting as well.
I really appreciate you taking time. I know you are so busy, but I appreciate you coming on today, telling us about Storytime, Indigenous empowerment, all the things that you're doing. And I wish you the best of luck. The Storytime is just amazing. So I encourage our listeners to check it out.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to Native Talk Arizona, presented by Native Health and 90.7 FM KRDP. Our executive producer is Susan Levy. Sound engineer is Javier Quiroga. We hope you will tune in again next week. If you have any questions, please reach us at nativetalkaz@listentokrdp.com.